Have you ever considered what exactly constitutes being a moron? Not just a clueless person, not just a sheep or a fool, but someone who thinks in completely misguided terms. Someone who thinks emotionally. For instance, people who judge each other based on their success are making a decision based on the emotion of greed. Case in point, Paul Ryan, not a moron. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but he's not a moron. Donald Trump is clearly a moron. Not because he's any less successful than Paul Ryan, obviously. Not because he's technically any less intelligent than Paul Ryan, but because he doesn't understand basic rules of etiquette. His inner soul, his heart is twisted. Yeah, that just seemed like a good image to show for that. Donald Trump's emotions overpower his ability to reason. That's what makes somebody a moron. Paul Ryan, not a moron. In fact, he's rather intelligent. Now, people who thought Trump was going to do what he told them, you're morons. Not because you're unintelligent people, but because you allowed yourself to receive information based upon emotions, which made the inevitable result a foregone conclusion. You decided before you started to pretend like you were going to make the decision. That makes you a moron, because you did this based upon emotions, based upon fear, based upon greed, based upon envy, based upon inequity. Taylor Swift. Most people think she's a moron. She's a silly girl, but she's not a moron. She's not mean to anybody. Doesn't really make, emotional career decisions. Just a girl, being successful, living her life, trying to find love, and not doing a very good job of it. Unions. Are unions morons? Are unions bad? Are people in unions morons? No. Most of them have all generally made very informed decisions. That's why most of them vote Democrat. Now that guy, obviously, some sort of a moron. And, speaking of morons, can you get a better example of a moron right there? I mean, really? Scientology? Like, you gotta wonder if people in Scientology have ever heard of Scientology, But in Tom Cruise's defense, he did make an excellent lap time on Top Gear, if I do recall, and so did Cameron Diaz, who was his date or something like that. Anyway, yeah. People who don't believe in God out of fear of the unknown, who pretend as though something so complex and intentionally mystifying should be easy to disprove, or as though it had already been disproven. Oh, I can just decide I don't believe in God, based upon layer of things that over time gradually get proven false, don't they? Every aspect of science gradually gets proven false. You know what doesn't get proven false? What Jesus Christ said. The golden rules don't get proven false, do they? Treating people kindly never gets proven false, does it? Loving your neighbor, and even your enemies, the spiritual value in that is the proof of God, never gets proven false. But all the science in the world can never hope to prove God false. Yet, over time, everything science has ever come up with, proven false eventually. Proven false somehow. More to learn from it. Always more knowledge to be gained. Oh, we made a mistake here. We didn't understand this. Now we know everything. Oh, okay. Oh, those were just mistakes we made in the past, and we're not making any more mistakes. No, have you kept up with science? You're making decisions out of fear of the unknown, fear of equality, fear of, I don't know, white genocide? What is this? What is this moron up to now? Okay, this is a moron. A moron, the likes of which, let's face it, the world has never seen. But that guy right there, not a moron. John Oliver, I admit, can be a moron from time to time. But I love him anyways. That guy right there. Like, it's no big secret of why Alex Jones and Digita get along so well. Mr. Pussy Grabber in Chief. And it's very, very interesting how so many different incidences are happening all around the country and in the media and everything else. And Fidel Castro, who's probably been dead for months, they just announced he died. I actually told my wife a few months ago I think he fucking died, and they're just going to wait until it's opportunistic to inform people. And yeah, it seems like now might be the time. I mean, we got this whole recount going on, and suddenly there's actually a lot of little channels starting to point out how antichristy and evil Donald Trump happens to seem. It's funny how the lesser of two evils clearly turned out to be Hillary Clinton. And now we got not only the recount, but we have arguments that should sway the electors, okay, and it just seems to be getting harder and harder to find all them juicy tidbits about Trump's conflicts of interest and his pay for play and his admitting to the IRS that they use donations. What was that, baby? What was that thing with the donations with the foundation? No, the Trump Foundation. I forgot how they word it. That's because no, the thing that admitted to the IRS. What was it specifically that got admitted to the IRS about the Trump Foundation taking campaign donations and something? But it was basically exactly what they accused Hillary Clinton of. Basically everything he spent the entire campaign trail accusing Hillary Clinton of, he's committed it in the first couple of weeks of him being the, quote, president-elect. Oh, there, I found something. Is there a line between Trump's business? No, not really. So, there is a severe non-moron right next to a severe moron. See? Moron who doesn't understand that that's not even the flag of the rebel South, and not a moron who understands that that freak of nature shouldn't be president. Yeah. Doesn't take much to distinguish, like me from a moron, for instance. Most morons don't get trolled quite as much as I do by people who can't argue anything ever. I would think that if I was a moron, I wouldn't have had, teachers and, family and friends and basically everybody telling me that I was the smartest person they'd ever fucking met. Just saying. If I one day could pick up an instrument, a musical instrument, and not be able to play it, maybe I might feel like a moron, just for a few seconds. Or if I, casted a vote for somebody out of fear, or decided to accept someone because it was in accordance with historical norms, even though everything else about this is not in accordance with historical norms. Yeah, I'd be a moron if I would accept that. See, we're asked to accept Donald Trump, to give him a chance, right? The same way he gave Barack Obama a chance with the whole birth certificate thing. Oh, yeah, let's do that. Huh. The Republicans are such hypocrites. Republicans, are morons, the likes of which has never been known among the tribes of man. I mean, this guy, he was kind of an idiot, but not quite a moron. That's why he didn't get as big of a percentage of the vote as he did. So, if you think that somehow this guy really won, that we had an honest process here, that this is not an anomaly, that this is not a tyrant, that you should not consider it your duty as an American to oppose this oligarch. What is the freaking word in the Federalist Papers that I'm trying to think of the other fucking day? Oligarch, autocrat, fucking. It's the word that they actually use in the Federalist Papers. Ha! I love having a word right on the tip of my tongue, and I can't fucking remember it. Kind of like this guy. That's Poroshenko. And he has actually given a platform to say that, oh, they started it. And they actually said ousted leader. This guy left the country. Okay? Federalist Papers say Trump is. Oh, I actually had to freaking Google it. The stupid overplayed word that I couldn't freaking think of is demagogue. Okay, the Federalist Papers specifically warn of demagogue. And I'm not talking about the federalistpapers.org, which is apparently just in the fucking way of anything you want to learn about the Federalist Papers. Oh, big fucking coincidence. Who'd have thunk that there'd be a fucking spam website keeping you from knowing something intrinsic to your democratic fucking existence? Ah! See, relevant note. Just because you get angry at things doesn't make you a moron. Bitch about it and move on with your life. Just, try not to step on somebody else's feelings. Unless they really deserve it. Yeah. Kidding. So, a demagogue. That's, in fact, what Mitt Romney called him. Which is, why clearly Mitt Romney is not going to be Secretary of State. And, so let's do some more morons. Any more morons around here? This guy, you may think he's a moron at a glance. You'd be horribly mistaken too. That is a very intelligent, passionate, just thoughtful, good person right there. I like that guy. And I wish we could have party alliances in this country. Anyway. So, all the morons letting this happen. You know that, like, karma is real, right? Just letting Russia commit genocide because, after all, they're only Muslims, right? Are they? Do you know that? They're all Muslim. All of them. Everybody in Aleppo. So what is a moron? Is old Josh Earnest a moron because he represents Obama? Kenyan president. Perhaps you're a moron for believing that load of bullshit. We're in a world surrounded by morons. I mean, chock full of morons. Morons in high places. Morons who show their allegiance right in your faces. But we'll never know freedom's graces as long as Donald Trump is allowed to sit in high places. That's all for now. Y'all take it easy, but don't take it all.